Welcome to the midlife crisis. Why is it so hard for us to admit that the government is broken? In the news, Texas is currently considering redrawing their maps to possibly pick up 5, I think, congressional seats. Why? Like, what's the reason for redrawing these maps? Did something happen? Did we get a boom in the population that we haven't accounted for? Did we discover some type of voting fraud that necessitates this to happen? Like, why can't we just state the obvious? One, the government's broken. Two, the Republican Party realizes that it doesn't necessarily represent the people because they have to cheat in order to maintain power. They have to redraw maps in order to maintain power. If you all were such the party of the people, if you all were really promoting the wants and needs of the masses of the population, this wouldn't be necessary. That's the whole purpose of a democracy, so that every vote counts. So if you're really doing what you say you're doing for the people, why not just let us vote and let it play out? If we really believe you, if your campaigning was really that good, then you wouldn't have anything to worry about. But the reality is it's not. And the reality is, because you know it's not, then you want to invoke things like gerrymandering so that it can appear like democracy is still working, but in reality, you're already making the decision for us. I don't understand why people in this country don't speak up about this more, because it's a clear example of how democracy is dead. Not dying, dead. I wanted to say dying, but it's dead. If the elected officials are already making moves so that the vote plays out a certain way, what's the value of your vote? This is 2025, people. Let's acknowledge history for what it is, and that's the problem, because a lot of people don't know history. We came up with these institutions like the Electoral College, like voting maps, for a couple of reasons. On the up and up, it's because everybody couldn't necessarily read. Illiteracy was way more rampant in the U.S. back then, supposedly, than it is now. So you had to come up with districts and things like that in order to really kind of group people together to get an accurate vote of what people actually wanted. On the other side of that scale, I would say the realistic side of that scale, you came up with these districts to try to alienate certain people from being able to vote. So, for example, if the majority of the people in the state are located in one area, and that majority of people are the people that your party has subjugated, neglected, not really spoken for, you kind of want to group all of those people into just one voting section, so that the people that are in the rest of the sparsely populated state that do represent your values, they're in the rest of that sparsely populated state, because they don't have to report to a city to go to work. They don't have to work a 9 to 5. They don't have to be on a time clock. Those are the people that align with your values, because those are the people with the estates. Those are the people with a lot of land. Those are the people that are employing those people in the cities to work for them. But they don't really want them to be a part of their society and their culture, so they operate a different way. You make those sparsely populated areas, you divide them up so that they count for more than just what they are. If you look at any major state, any state, the mass populations of people are around the cities. You know, if you look at, Chicago, Illinois, or Los Angeles, California, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, all of these are very densely populated areas, but they're densely populated with people who aren't white. The majority of those areas aren't white. The majority of those areas don't share Republican beliefs. They're not sympathetic to those. But even though it's millions of people in those areas, that district only counts for 1 or 2 votes. But when you go further out into the other parts of those states, those people are predominantly white. Those people are sympathetic to Republican beliefs, and they do vote that way. But all of those votes count more individually, and I know that's not a real term and it's grammatically incorrect, but it's the only way that I can phrase it right now. Those votes count more individually because the districts in those areas are chopped up and divided in a way where, even though there's only 500 people that live in this district as opposed to 1,000, that district still weighs just as heavily as that densely populated city area. So they say it balances the vote. It really doesn't. It puts a thumb on the scale. It puts a goddamn brick on the scale and leans it to another side. Why don't we see that? Why aren't we up in arms about that whole situation? Because they're basically robbing the people of their vote. If the votes were just, and here's a novel idea that I'm sure somebody has come up with before me, but if they haven't, my God, can we, make this popular? The novel idea is just let every vote count individually. Let every vote count for itself. If there's 1 million people in this country, and I know there's more, but if there's 1 million people in this country, we should be counting 1 million votes. And tally each one of them up, and whoever wins just wins. We don't need an electoral college anymore. Literacy has gotten a lot better in this country. We don't need districts and things like that anymore because you just go vote where you vote. Wherever you live, go vote. It's not that difficult. And then we have wonderful ways of counting right now. We have these things called fingers of brains where you can literally just peel 1 vote off at a time and let that happen. You can also put it into a computer to count. We've been doing that in Vegas for God knows how long. We have this wonderful new thing called AI, which I don't necessarily fully trust, but I'm sure it's capable of at least counting. These are things that we can do. This conversation is unnecessary. There's no reason for us to be wondering about gerrymandering or redistricting. It's wrong. And if you look at it for what it is, it's just wrong. Regardless of what side of the party you actually fall on, you can admit that it's wrong. And I know it may mean that, okay, if we didn't do this, then Republicans would never win shit. But guess what, Republicans? If we're actually representing the people, that means you might need to change. You might need to campaign a bit differently and actually listen to your constituents every once in a while to represent the things that they're actually wanting and needing, and not your own personal endeavors and your own personal wants and your own personal desires. Maybe if you're a representative of the people, you should probably try actually representing the people. But I'm not ending it there. I'll end it here. Folks, anybody who can hear this, anybody who doesn't hear this, I hope somebody, I'm not looking for like fame and stuff like that, but on stuff like this, when the country is where it is, get this message out. Like, I don't care if you like me or not. I don't care who you like. I don't care what side of the party you're on. Realize that whatever side of the party you're on, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever color that you are, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, the government of the United States no longer represents the people. It represents its own self-interests, which is why I said democracy is dead. However, we still have a little bit of time left and a few laws that are on our side where we can actually restore this democracy if we put aside all this bullshit. I know some people don't like people because of the color of their skin. I know some people don't like people because of their lifestyles. I know some people don't like people because of their religions. Fine. But we can actually argue all of this out and come to some type of a happy medium if we do reinstate a government that does actually represent all of us. And one group of us, regardless of who that group is, stops being so fucking selfish that they try to represent their needs and desires above all others. Let's actually be a government of the people.